This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump headed to Alabama today to see the damage from a massive tornado that took the lives of 23 people. Air Force One first landed at a military base along the Georgia-Alabama border. The President and First Lady then boarded a helicopter for an aerial tour of the damage. They were expected to tour Lee County in eastern Alabama. That's where on Sunday, a huge EF4 tornado, nearly a mile wide, tore through the area with 170-mile-per-hour winds. That twister was one of at least 38 tornadoes confirmed to have touched down throughout Southeast last weekend. Operation Blessing is on the ground in Alabama helping residents. Survivors are digging through the rubble of what is left of their homes and their belongings. Residents like Barbara Rowan, you see her right there, she says she wasn't home when the storm hit and believes it saved her life. Operation Blessing prayed with her and helped her sort through debris to find family and photos. Anthony Lloyd is Senior Director of Operation Blessing's National Disaster Relief. He's there and joins us from Smith Station, Alabama. Anthony, you guys have already deployed residents there. You're helping so many residents, including a group of veterans. Tell us, Anthony, about their situation.
Yes, thank you. We're honored to be here at Loving Touch Veterans Home. Miss Kathy Brown allowed us to come on board her property and really kind of clean up some storm debris. She had some metal roofing that was torn off one of their community houses out back, and we picked up some stuff that was sort of rolled around the yard. So she felt fortunate, though, that they didn't have worse damage, and was very thankful for that, and was obviously very happy when we offered our assistance to her. So it's been a real blessing to serve the veterans and Miss Kathy.
Anthony, give us a picture, give us a glimpse of how survivors are doing, sir.
Well, we have been doing assessments, and when we came in with some of our equipment yesterday, you can see where in the rural areas, those that don't have houses, there's lots of trees in that swath that you mentioned in the lead-in that was, kind of laid over, broken in half. So, and those are pockets. And then some of the heavier hit areas, a lot of volunteers have kind of attacked those in the first 48 hours. We're not far from Smith Station, this home here. There is an area around fields and pine trees that were snapped in half, but right here on the site, we're just cleaning up the debris and one of the trees that was cut up and is one of the debris in the backyard. So that's kind of an overview of how it is right now.
Yeah, Anthony, you guys do more than just bring physical aid. You bring spiritual aid as well. What stories have you heard about what God is doing in the midst of this tragedy?
Well, I mean, even just coming here, Miss Kathy was concerned with one of the trees in the backyard, which was cut up. And then when we showed up and said we would clean everything up for her, and she was just so happy to hear that. As you move through, even the volunteer reception center and Miss Station, people are willing to join up with groups as they, attack homes. And then when we, obviously, we've even had people walk up and tell us that they're willing to help us, and we accept their offers of help by giving their names to our emergency operations center. And, obviously, there's many opportunities to pray and minister as people walk up and recognize the Operation Blessing branding on our shirts. It's really humbling.
Yeah, and that's what you guys are very famous for doing in addition. Tell us, what's the plan for Operation Blessing's work there in the coming days?
Now that we're able to have good connections with the local officials, we have a place where we're going to set up our work order coordination. I think it's Green Acres Church here in the area. That way we can coordinate day volunteers and just sort of accept work orders, work on certainly the veterans home here for the rest of the day, and then get to what's coming down the pike in the days ahead.
Anthony Lloyd with the great organization Operation Blessing. So thank you for all you are doing and what you guys are doing there in Alabama. Please stay safe, and we'll be praying for you.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. In other news, a Girl Scouts of America chapter recently awarded its top honor to a girl who organized a pro-abortion campaign. LifeSite News reports the Girl Scouts of Southern Arizona honored Megan Gopalan for her work on so-called reproductive health justice. Gopalan told a Tucson publication at the time she became interested in advocating for abortion after the Supreme Court nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. You can read the full story at cbnnews.com, including reports on the Girl Scouts partnering with Planned Parenthood, although the organization denies it. More than 130 federal court seats are sitting empty across the United States. Republicans say Democrats are obstructing the process, delaying President Trump's nominees. For example, Naomi Rao, who is on track to fill a key appeals court seat formerly held by Brett Kavanaugh. She's facing opposition over her past writings about date rape and her views on abortion. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is considering a rule that would speed up the process and fill the lower court spots before the end of President Trump's first term. John Kipping is the senior legal fellow with Heritage Foundation, and former chief counsel on the Senate Judiciary Committee under Senator Orrin Hatch. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. So what happens here with Naomi Rao's nomination?
Well, as you said, she's been nominated to the U.S. Court of Appeals here in Washington, and I would say she is particularly well suited for that court, and that's because that court has a large portion of its cases involving government regulations, and that is exactly the area in which she's been working for the last 15 years. She has been approved by the Senate Judiciary Committee and now is before the full Senate. Yesterday, the Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, filed a motion to end debate on her nomination, and the vote on that motion is going to take place early next week. And once debate is brought to a close, then the Senate will vote up or down, and I believe she will be confirmed and will be a great addition to that court.
Tom, are Democrats fighting a losing battle here? What is Senator McConnell's, what's he considering next?
Well, I think people need to understand there's more objectives to what Democrats are doing than simply defeating one or another nomination. They don't have the votes to defeat the nominations outright. So what they're trying to do is to slow the process down to minimize the overall number of judges that President Trump is able to appoint. This is a fight about the kind of judges we ought to have on the bench across the country, whether it's a political judge who serves political interests or an impartial judge who follows the law. That's the choice, and that's the conflict in these nominations.
Yeah.
President Trump
you are also Heritage's judicial tracker. I'm curious, how does President Trump stand with the nominee process, and have you seen this kind of resistance in, for example, prior administrations with Democrats or Republicans?
Well, the Heritage Foundation has a judicial appointments tracker. You can find that at heritage.org/judicial tracker. And that tracks 6 different components of the confirmation process. It compares current data about President Trump with similar data for the previous 5 presidents. Even though President Trump is nominating more judges and the Judiciary Committee is holding more hearings, the Senate is not confirming more judges, and that's because of the obstruction campaign that I mentioned a minute ago. So Senate Republicans are going to have to push harder than they have in the past because they have almost 40 nominees that are before the full Senate ready to be confirmed, and there's a great need. I mean, the judiciary is 16% empty, and Americans rely on the courts for civil cases and, of course, the criminal justice system, and we've got to get those seats filled.
Okay, last minute here. We all know that the fight over Justice Brett Kavanaugh's nomination was fierce. If the president gets to nominate another Supreme Court justice, do you expect it to be the same?
I expect the fight over the next Supreme Court justice to probably be worse than the fight over Brett Kavanaugh, and that's because the next justice likely to retire will be one of the more liberal justices. So when the balance of the court is going to change, that's when there's the most at stake. So if you thought the fight over Brett Kavanaugh's nomination was was tough. It's going to be even worse, but it's worth fighting because we have to have the right kind of judges on the federal bench.
Okay, Tom, we'll have to leave it there. Tom Jipping with the Heritage Foundation. We appreciate your insights. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, in other political news, Democrats are repositioning for 2020 after a difficult House vote Thursday on anti-Semitism. Over 400 House members voted in favor of a resolution condemning anti-Semitism, as well as anti-Muslim discrimination, racial discrimination, and white supremacy. But behind the scenes, the vote revealed a big divide in the Democratic Party over how to respond to comments on Israel made by the freshman Muslim Congresswoman, Representative Ilhan Omar, with members leaving her name out of the resolution, although it was her remarks that originally led to the idea of the resolution. President Trump says he feels very badly for Paul Manafort, his former campaign chairman, who was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison for tax and bank fraud. That's far below, by the way, the 20-year term sentencing guidelines recommend and what prosecutors wanted. Still, it's the longest sentence for a defendant in cases stemming from Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Manafort was, by the way, not charged with colluding with the Russians in the 2016 elections. Manafort will also be sentenced next week on additional charges that he served as an unregistered foreign agent for Ukraine, laundered money, and tampered with a witness. Many political observers believe Joe Biden may join the field of Democratic presidential candidates, and there's activity in his camp. Be sure to catch tonight's Faith Nation with my colleagues John Jessup and Jenna Browder. By the way, CBN senior political correspondent David Brody joins the team to discuss what it could mean for the 2020 race for both Democrats and Republicans. Okay, coming up, serving the needs of women in some of the most underdeveloped nations in the world. We'll learn more of what one organization is doing to help them worldwide on this International Women's Day.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. It's International Women's Day, and there are celebrations, as you can imagine, around the world. However, the realities are often rather stark for women living in underdeveloped nations. That's where organizations like World Relief come in to help. Jenny Yang is the Vice President of Advocacy and Policy for World Relief. She joins us to discuss what her organization is doing on the ground to help women in great poverty and need. Jenny, as always, thank you for coming on the show. So, you know, in nations like the U.S., women's rights are pretty much taken for granted. But that is not the case, as you know, in most third world nations. What are the greatest needs facing them?
Well, right now, worldwide, there's around 700 million people that live on less than $1.90 per day, which is considered the international poverty line. Now, in many places around the world, women and girls in particular are disproportionately impacted. For example, if a woman is widowed, oftentimes it's her husband's family that receives the property, and she and her children are often kicked out of that home. So these are systemic issues that are often at play, in which women, again, oftentimes are disproportionately impacted by poverty. And there's places around the world, for example, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where World Relief works, in which it's considered the worst place in the world to live for a woman, because many women, for example, when they go out to gather firewood to cook meals for their family, are victims of gender-based violence. These are places around the world in which World Relief is working through local churches, not only to meet the needs of women where they are, but to actually empower them with tools and resources so that they can continue to lead and transform their communities in really amazing ways.
World Relief is a Christian humanitarian group. How are you guys working to meet those physical needs and spiritual needs of the women?
Sure. Well, most of the work that we do, we always try to work through the local church, because we know that local churches and communities around the world are working not just to meet the physical needs of individuals, but also their spiritual needs as well. So, for example, we have something called Savings for Life, which is a program that pulls women together to basically have savings for them to purchase groceries and different products for their homes and for their children. Savings for Life is run through the local church, in which they actually talk about biblical values of saving money and of providing for your children in a way that really is holistic in its transformation of the women that are involved. And so in a lot of these programmings, we actually just last year served 90,000 women in our Savings for Life programming. In other places in Congo, for example, we actually work through churches to change stigma around victims of gender-based violence. So, for example, if a woman is raped in Congo, what will happen? Well, they'll be stigmatized, where they won't actually be accepted by the local community. What we've done is we've worked with pastors and churches to talk about the value of these women. And a lot of the women in these local churches have come around them to actually say you are accepted and welcome, and to even bring a lot of these women to local hospitals where they'll actually get physical treatment as well. We believe that the local church is the greatest social network on the planet. It is not Facebook. And because of that, we always try to work through local churches to really lead the changes in their own communities, especially focusing on women and children.
In the last minute that we have here, how would you encourage the global church to get involved in speaking out for women around the world?
Well, I think it's a biblical understanding of our role to be influencers and to raise our voice. In Proverbs 31:8, it says that we are to speak up for the rights of all who do not have them, for the rights of all who are poor and destitute. So we really encourage church leaders in the United States and around the world to continue to focus especially on vulnerable women, to make sure there's programmings and ministries to meet the needs of these women. And if you want to get involved directly, you can go to worldrelief.org/women, where you'll find specific ways that we've been, through our ministry, working through local churches to transform situations of vulnerable women around the world.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much, Jenny Yang with World Relief. Terrific organization. Thank you for all that you guys are doing around the world.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. India is facing a dramatic rise in Christian persecution. The newest figures from a human rights group show that the cases of hate and violence against India's minority Christians jumped 57% in the first 2 months of this year. That's compared to 49% last year. According to the Evangelical Fellowship of India, 77 incidents were documented against Christians between January and February of 2019. That's in comparison to just 49 cases in 2018. Violent attacks against Christians have steadily increased since a radical Hindu party took control of India's government back in 2014. Open Doors has ranked India as the 10th worst country in the world for Christian persecution. Still ahead, the amazing story of a woman's ability to forgive that brought actress Patricia Heaton to tears.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible, because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson.
CBN's Jessica Chaco and Dan Andros have our top trending stories from faithwire.com, including that incredible story of forgiveness that brought Patricia Heaton to tears and how one woman's faith helps her overcome worry. Take a look.
Well, you may know Dana Perino as former President George W. Bush's press secretary and as a Fox News analyst. But in a recent interview with FaithWire, Perino shares about her faith in Jesus Christ. Here to tell us more, Dan Andros, managing editor of faithwire.com. Dan?
Yeah, well, Dana told us that politics has always been a big part of her life. Even when she was growing up, she talked about how her sister wanted to sleep in before they went to church, but she wanted to go to the early service so that she could get home in time to watch Meet the Press. She said she kind of floundered from her faith when she was in college and was anxious and worried all the time. And she said it just sort of clicked with her one day. She just remembered that she needed to pray and she needed to surrender all that worry and anxiety to God. And so she kind of came back to faith during that time. And she talked about and revealed a few tricks that she has now whenever she's feeling, those feelings of anxiety and worry, that instead of counting 1 to 10 like most people do, she counts I to me, which is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's the one that she counts as her counting from 1 to 10. And she spoke very highly of President Bush, who she was the press secretary for, and said that she would do anything for him and that he was just such a great man of God. And it was a joy to serve under him. But she's involved in many things now, including Mercy Ships, which she says is a charity that you can really feel the hand of God when she's working with them. So great to see someone with such a high, a high public figure with such great faith.
Well, another public figure is speaking about their faith, and not for the first time. Actress Patricia Heaton shares a powerful interview where she's overcome with emotion while talking to victims of the Rwandan genocide, learning about their plight and their decision to forgive. Dan, this is a powerful story.
Yeah, what a moment. And she was over there with World Vision, and she does some work with them. And so, and Patricia has been outspoken about her faith many times, but in this instance, she was actually over doing an interview there with, like you said, the Rwandan genocide victims. And she spoke with a woman who had her whole family murdered in incredibly violent ways over there during the Rwandan genocide. And so one of them was by someone they knew growing up. One of these people, actually, they when they had split up into the different, factions, that person ended up coming back and killing many of her family members. And so she ended up forgiving that person one day when she just said, even despite being so filled with hate and rage, one day God just sort of overcame her and said, you know what, I need to reach out and forgive this person. And, they had been in jail and had served all this time, but managed to forgive, and now they have a relationship. And it's just, that's what melted Patricia on camera, just to see that level of forgiveness despite that heinous of a crime. And it was all done through, the mercy of God and in his name. And so Pretty amazing stuff to see that. And obviously Patricia was overwhelmed with it as well.
Well, you can watch them praying for Patricia. She actually asks them to pray for her by visiting FaithWire on Facebook and on the web at faithwire.com. Back to you.
The world has a new social media influencer, the Queen of England. We'll tell you about her first Instagram post right after this.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. The world has a new social media influencer, Queen Elizabeth. She recently published her first post to Instagram. Sent via the royal family's Instagram account, she shared a photo of a letter sent to her by her great-great-grandfather, Prince Albert, from 1843. The letter was from a mathematician and early computer pioneer. The Queen wrote, quote, "It seems fitting to me that I publish this Instagram post at the Science Museum, which has long championed technology, innovation, and inspired the next generation of inventors." The Queen signed the post, Elizabeth R. Well, folks, that is it for this edition of Newswatch. You can find more on the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com, and you can catch all the CBN News programs anytime right here on our CBN News channel. Plus, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here by emailing us at newswatch@cbn.com or reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you will join us again next time. In the meantime, have a great day, and remember, God loves you.